name's Roger Blore. I'm one of the editors of the Alchemy Spoon, and welcome to Playhanger Press, which are the publishers of the magazine. We're really excited to be launching our first issue of the Alchemy Spoon, and we're really grateful to all the poets who submitted to us that came from a wide range of age groups, professions, backgrounds, and from across the world. I'm also really grateful to Maurice Reardon for providing the introduction to this evening. So I'd like to pass over to my co-editors, to Vanessa Lampert and Mary Mulholland, to just say a few words, and then we'll hear from Maurice, and then we'll hear from the poets. And I hope you enjoy the evening.
Okay, my name is Vanessa Lampert. I'm one of the editors of the Alchemy Spoon, and I'm on top of Golden Cap. To say to you, thank you so much for sending us all your poems, hundreds and hundreds of them. You never know when you're part of a new project how people will want to take part or not take part, and there's always that fear that maybe nothing will happen. But it did, and I thoroughly enjoyed everything I read. I hope that when the new submission window opens on October the 1st, that you'll do the same. Thank you so much.
Hi. I'm Mary Mulholland, one of the co-editors of the Alchemy Spoon, and I'd just like to say that for me this is one of the best things that came out of lockdown. A combination of poetry and journalism feels for me pretty much the ultimate, and a particular thanks to Roger for your publishing house and for pushing an idea off the ground. It's been great working with you and Vanessa. I've loved every inch of the way, though the hardest moments were sending rejections, particularly to people I know whose poetry I enjoy. Yet even this has a plus side. As the recipient of a mountain of rejection slips, it brought home it's not personal. Often it's the fit, a line break, a more arresting image or word. So please keep sending. Our next theme will be metal. I want to add a particular thank you to lovely Sylvia in Paris with your amazing bookshop, which I can't wait to visit again, and to Leslie for your beautiful essay, which as someone who once lived in Belfast, made me see the old linen mills in an entirely new way. Thank you too to Catherine for your gracious and inspiring interview. It was wonderful working with you, and to all our poet authors of wonderful books and pamphlets, and our inaugural poets who grace our pages. So thank you everyone, and especially to Roger and Vanessa. I reckon we make a pretty good team, and I'm already looking forward to issue 2.
Hello, good evening everyone. I'm Maurice Reardon. I'm pleased to welcome the Alchemy Spoon into the world of poetry. This is a new type of magazine, in that it is committed to publishing older and, as the editorial puts it, new phase writers. In this it fulfills a very important and commendable aim. There's long been a bias in favour of youth in the poetry world. It's partly, no doubt, due to the lingering romantic image of the poet as a youth, a beautiful young male genius whom the gods love, and so will soon be dead. But more seriously, there still are awards, as we know, specifically aimed at young poets or writers under a certain age. There is a predilection in the publishing world and among festival organisers and so on towards the younger author, as if talent were the prerogative of those in their 20s. But this is rarely the case. There are exceptions. Poets can dazzle brilliantly early on in their careers, but more typically, writers do their best work later in life. The Alchemy Spoon, then, is a healthy antidote to the notion that poetry is the stuff of youth, and it will contribute to a more balanced perspective, a recognition that poetry is the fruit of seasoned experience. Its power to move is won through graft and craft, and the most enduring poems are more likely to demonstrate breadth of sympathy rather than self-obsession. So Congratulations to the editors, Vanessa, Mary, and Roger, for their bold enterprise and hard work. This first issue looks splendid, and it is full of wonderful poems and poetry commentary and criticism. Welcome to the Alchemy Spoon. May it have a long and illustrious future.
And now the first issue of the Alchemy Spoon welcomes poets reading their poems. We have Diana Bell, Pat Winslow, Rosie Sandler, and Sarah Watkinson.
Time. In the dark, an ash seed, suspended on a spider's thread, spins as the clock turns and the moon sinks. Time passes like the slow slide of violin bows that speak together of the past.
Radio Times. Better than her sister's doll's house is the wireless with its window of names: Hilversum, Brussels, Stavanger, Athlone. The smell when it's switched on, tiny crackles of electricity and dust. The grill at the back, valves warming up like the streetlights of Prague, Vienna and Rome. Border guards with inscrutable faces put you on trains to secret places where they talk in numbers and the same 4 notes play over and over. Trams clank dully past Warsaw's rubble and the cranes of Moscow. Pigeons circle the cobbles of Paris, Dresden and Cologne. Hawkers sell matches on street corners in sulphurous London. Men sink neck deep in iron bathtubs in Belfast and Glasgow. From Lisbon to Stockholm, from Dublin to Minsk, women knit scarves and gloves by guttering fires. In an endless winter where there is never enough coal to go round, all they can do is huddle closer and tune in to the endless frequency of a patched-up Europe that keeps thawing and freezing by turns.
Daughter of the marsh. She wades through reeds to the waist lick of water, the skim of eel, the slip of fish. Each day she is in place as light needles its way past night. And she is flora, or flotsam perhaps, so much a part of the landscape the marsh accepts her as its own. And it's said she measures mud the way a clock measures time, not because she can, but because she has no choice. Her hands weigh minutes in their palms, thick and dark as the history of bone, shell, and flesh, the layering of life. And they say she sifts centuries between her toes, holds millennia in the gaze of her mud eyes, knows how things began and how they'll end.
Life in 4D for Alexander. Lorenz and his dog swam the Danube, wide as a sea, were carried 3 miles down to landfall. Ships from the Balkans churn the river today. A swimmer might eddy into a driving wheel. Cataracts contribute from a catchment of Carboniferous Alps, Dolomitic, eternal, beyond Circadian. Sun-splintering peaks arose from deep Circadian workings of the ancient sun-moon sea. transmuted trillions of carboniferous plankton accreted through eons by slow fall of settling spicules, each small chalky wheel made seabed limestone, raised to the wind today. Time streams on, flowing through today. Our clocks, like watermills, mark circadian days, escapements fixed to check the wheel as torrents whirl it round, seeking the sea, briefly checked by dam, flume, waterfall, through Cambrian, Permian, Carboniferous. Geologists chart the strata, Carboniferous beds, coal measures. Miners from today descend to yesterday, where the rich seams fall into the mountain's heart, working circadian shifts in tunnels, grimy-faced, far from sea, serving day by day the pithead wheel. Might ages also circle like a wheel, cycling new copies of the Carboniferous? Or might time be a multi-dimensional sea speckled with islands, each one at a day, where datelines of our world, circadian, float free as myth, Eden, the flood, the fall? The baby looks, cries, sits and stands to fall, watches his mobile circle, spins his wheel, mindless of parents and their circadian life. In his sandpit, edged with carboniferous decorative rocks, hooray! Today he will play on the shore of an infinite sea. The sea will bear him if he happens to fall. Today he laughs and spins his coloured wheel. The cliffs are carboniferous, life circadian.
Next we have Barbara Barnes, Sandra Galton, Heidi Beck, Pat Thompson and Tamsin Cottis.
Will we become fish again? We're in departures when you ask this. On the cusp of 13, you hold the answers. We lock in an airport goodbye, eyes closed, the important work of molding a memory of each other, as around us others are arranged in clusters, sea creatures, swaying together, voiceless. The high school dance clinch and slow step to the tannoy's triple note rise and reminder to keep personal belongings with us at all times. Even so, I unwrap you from me. Lift your head from the curve of my neck and you slip behind the final screen. I join the surge to the underground. My thoughts are water walking. Your wings shadow the ocean. You began as a flicker in my belly.
Hi, I'm Sandra Galton, and this is my poem, The Persistence of Memory, after Dali. When time becomes an overripe camembert, it may be the moment to remember it was not always so, how it came from indeterminate origins, and from there crept across the sands, a half-formed creature, oyster white, nescient of that old enemy, fate, how flowing from inert beginnings, it became adept at dreaming each rapid burst of images logged inside a library without words, yet listening, waiting for the steady maturation to occur from within until awakened by trauma, birth, the first phase of decay, already crawling across its long, dripping face.
My poem in Alchemy Spoon begins with an epigraph from the Anglo-Saxon poem The Ruin, which exists only in fragments in the 10th century Exeter book. And I've used a translation from the Old English by Aaron Hostetter at Rutgers University. These wall stones are wondrous. Calamities crumpled them. These city sites crashed, the work of giants corrupted. And my poem in the magazine is called Lecturing Notes re World Cave at Disney Temple Complex. Anthologic Conferment, Yar 2310. Poetics enjoy construing ruins romantic, their refusing to disgorge. And mine lifeline of learnings, frustratical, how little importanding in decades since data crash. Seekers divining only by physicality. As understandant of pilgrimage, I unearth perplexities profound. Realize my speakings with uncertain, re-substitutive journeying. I thesized my thinking now since 30 Desca, but may not be rightly. Examples: short tripping to Chartres Temple for worship on Lab Maze as replacement of requiring bodily riding Desca to Jerusalem Complex, as crawling along Henjo-kutsu cave room at Daisho Temple, conferring same reward for sectors as schlepping 8 shrines of Shikoku. Likewise, my life work on World Cave site, which I am loving, now sharing. Important amazements of pure physicality, for me, culmination, pilgrimage. Sacred site present by only imaginating, now sensating in touch dimension. As, without water, we must only walking. Rememberment of boat patch. Reenacting of ferryment by river boats, 4 bench, 4 peoples, could be concurring with 4 cardinal points, as then considered. As bridges, barriers, and connectors both, over and perpendicular under. No wonderment while passaging, must progress in particular placings and timings while worshipping each tableau and tribal offerment. Most mannequin would be motional, motoring, with wavings, dancings. As representings of Mother Sun, Father Moon, multi-star sparklings, brightly coloring, buzzingment in brains, making worship mood. Sadder, the sacred beasting, giraffe, panda, koala, now extinguished. As my top excitements at old tribes having tableau. Examples: Egypt burial barge boat, Jerusalem old tribe, riding, dancing, clapping. Mexica, parabola, shade hattings. Euro, mountain music, tubing, stamping. Such rhythmicking representations, drummings, harpings, ringings. As tableau doing speaking by speakers, standing under, over. Speakings then, same as singings now, but music for meditatings, extinguished. This making sacral trance, happy cruising, world pilgrimage, substitutive. We must imaginate sectors harmony worshipping, sharing sacred shrine wording, small world.
This poem is about the New York poet Barbara Guest, who was not as well known as the male poets of the New York school, wrongly in my opinion, as she's brilliant. With salt on my eyelashes. Bringing up the subject, your daughter on Penn Sound said you were left out of a significant anthology. And we've not heard much about your paintings, which rivaled those of Helen and Joan. In fact, your poems are like paintings. Boys, it's no excuse. The thing is, you scared them. You were so good. And they, gnarled with confusion, didn't know where or how to place you. Rare were true friends like Frank and Jimmy, though Jimmy's illness often kept him away. You told us to look for the little ghost in your poems. Yours made a haunted gallery, where you spoke to everyone. Let us roam around their surfaces and under them. Downtown or on Upper East Side, you kept your own grace, even when jealous people tried to keep you out. What did you care for those toxic spaces? Kindly, you remind me that parachutes will carry me higher, and that trembling I can tread water mid-air. Time drops from my wrist again and again.
I'm Tamsin Cuttis, and this is my poem called On Dartmoor, My Climb Begins, after The Kiss by Bridget Riley. In the beat before teen mouths meet, a Rizzler paper of air, white slices between us. Experience now, we no longer crush lips or crash teeth as our breath is traded unequal. Already I understand that I am curve to your straight, that it is girl who tilts, molds, folds away or forward as you, boy, on firm glittering rock, wish it. Your hands at my face, my hands at your back, fists full of your soft shirt and skin, my eyes closed, believing I am the unstable one, the granite boulder, rocking on Haytor top.
We welcome the following poets: Pascal Fallas, Deborah Sibbald, Jane Wilkinson, Linda France, and Jill Abram.
Wrong. This is wrong, that we are moving back through years and miles to the old house. This is wrong, that it begins with the strange telescoping atmosphere of twilight, which has my office in the wrong location, bulbous and pulsing, over the bare trees at the back of our patch. We try to photograph it, using the wrong apertures with wrong techniques, and all that appear are austere tree forms on dreary sky. So we reappear in the old area and allow our spirits to decline. To get a feel for what is wrong, we set the process off, obtain valuations, appoint solicitors, give notice at schools. We soak ourselves with tears, of course, because it's obviously wrong. So we carry on and fill in forms, sign contracts, kiss dear friends goodbye, resign from jobs, clubs and committees, dissolve routines and give up all the cheerful claims on our time. This is wrong, but we sell that faultless camera and start to grow accustomed to the wrong future, now pouring itself a single malt with its feet up in the living room shadows. Thank you.
We're all hopper paintings now. 5 a.m. A song thrush travels mainly at night, singing intermittently. By 5, the other birds sing their way out of darkness. Bees map each flower like musical notation. The sky, a block of blue, the colour of longing and the sea. Morning sun, hoarded luxury colours, speculative stock photographs, worn-out desk, the bizarre tulips, unhinged skyline mosaics. 7 a.m. Alarm clock songs, sketches of street trees, red horse chestnuts, rowan, powerfully jawed dog tethered to the corky-barked maple. Woman in the sun, climbed or clambered over, damp pink harlequin, uncommon winged blue blossom, scrubby bells of cyclists, possessed by light. 11 a.m. Shore season, grey messages on factory postcards, piebald buildings, a rosebush sky, a waiting room, empty markets, an ambulance siren crying at sunlight. The city of dance and trotting roses, thick flowers, expensive hair, dreaming statues, lighthouse days. Summer interior, city flats sleeping thought houses, a shining live country of dreaming vagabonds intent on walking, favourite landscape, streams of lamp blue time, the night both flower and desire meadow, rain is a faraway forest, high noon, charm bracelets, 10,000 thoroughbreds in training, second story sunlight, saffron ruff of canaries, both comfort and alarm, avarice of red and gold pigment, the appeal of unstabled palominos galloping. Interior model reading, the calm horses, wooded flowers opening like want. Lights go by, turning alone, paragraphs like clearings. Houses at dusk, a city drawn by the city, parks, hillsides, lights, a gallery at night. The old joy in peonies, grass and wilderness, purple massed murmurations, calm green stairwells like lanes, the closed eyes of windows, unwritten letters. Night shadows, already summer's stars count, the many hospitals shining, slender crowds, extinguished mirrors, a mystery of newspapers, the wilted days like ghosts of animals, expansive affairs of birds, starling hallucinations, bedsheet claws, blue night of dark mortal houses, reddish moon, tatty rosettes of clouds, faded blooms of books, folded cherry trees, facing away from flight, feathered as chalky owls.
Jane Wilkinson, I could have made a shoe. Perhaps my spatial awareness is a symptom, or perhaps the cause of a natural inclination to run away. Or is it an unfathomable quirk of a freestyle cartographic attitude? My childhood roaming first started inside Hypericum's yellow flower with my eyes. Then I leapt field hedges and cycled lanes, plastic shopping bags packed toward the filthy and delicious city. Vivienne Westwood described it. At 6, with my spatial intelligence, I could have made a shoe. I even plot time as space, simultaneous as a Japanese scroll painting, non-narrative. All action exists on my internal map. All summers lie in the valley of a sine wave. New years pile up like cairns on the mountain's peak. When a hectic time flashes by, in contrast, the recollection is a vast, extended panorama, lush in all directions, into the blues of aerial perspective. It takes time to explore the old road down towards the sea.
Hello there, my name's Linda France, and I'm very happy to have a poem in this first edition of the Alchemy Spoon. Thank you very much to the editors for including it. I was particularly attracted by the theme of time that this issue is built around, and I've been thinking a lot about it lately, particularly in relation to climate change. This photograph by artist and photographer Karen Melvin seems to me to capture something of a sense of time that's not linear that's more simultaneous and cyclical and more in tune with our relationship with the natural world. So I wrote this poem in response to it. The time. Darkness will not be all that defines this new blink of a landscape. A sky of third eye indigo invites you to jettison, jump right in. Your landing will be softened by unexpected slipstreams of sheep's wool and lanolin. Clock-shaped narcissism replaced with a book of nights, stars, seeds and spores. Fibonacci calendar of vegetal being. First to rise is lichen, glaucous and antlered, sexual proclivities pre-Linnaean, her 17,000 names as precious and forgettable as anything, no, yes, everything you learnt at your desk or hearth, or under your feet, in disguise from the earth. Ancient comrade darters bring word of change, cataclysmic, unnegotiable, a low revolutionary arc, proving the worth of their fail-safe faith in continuous motion. What the time sees through a glass lightly, enough, more than you know alone. Animal, vegetable, minerals, blessed alchemy. The pattern of the formula of the dynamic, even the correct designation beyond you, deepens like a pain blooming from the back of your reptilian neck, escalating up and down your mammalian spine, jarred by all that crashing about you did in the 80s. The fractal mosaic of the dragonfly's wing extends a glimmer of precision, gentleness, not flight, a hoisting perhaps, aiming in the right direction, towards a constellation yet to be identified, alongside the verdigris lichen, which has no need to aim anywhere. She isn't a gun. And though armed, remember, neither are you and your kind. Nothing is not occurring. The lichen is also winged, inconspicuous, aspirational. She has the power, natural symbiosis, to teach you how to make friends with the time, this moment, save your breath. That knack she has of flinging her cups, her candles, her nets over the world, catching it and letting go.
At 10:43 on Friday the 29th of June 1984. It felt important to note the moment. We lay all night on my bed with the dent in the middle, so we curved around the edge, above the covers, fully dressed, our heads together, talking, not touching, until we succumbed to sleep. When we woke, you said I was the closest thing on your mind. Then, as if to prove it, you kissed me for the first time.
And now we welcome Fiona Larkin, Lizzie Ballaher, Chris Hardy, John Goff and Martin Malone.
Self-anointed at 7. I was so damn obedient. I knew I had to be a saint. I brandished a clear conscience, blank as my forehead, puckered weakly by the need to work up a sin to confess. My halo pinched at the crown. If anything, it was too small.
over Lomseyan Ridge. Cast by ragged ponies that laboured up the Lenbreen bedrock, cracked horseshoes come to light. Ferris curves with rusting edges that rise from snowmelt, from slow ice. Path bleached by wind's scourings, by travellers' prints, the Lendbreen Pass ascends from icy Viking times. In frozen ground we trace the runes, horse's skull, mitten, broken sled runner, the bit and bridle of some worn-out beast, matted fur of shoe, snagged thread of woven tunic, all cast-offs of another age. For nearly 2 millennia, farmers travelled here. Traders traversed these coarse-grained ways. Women with wool-wound distaffs, and chieftains grasping staves. Huntsmen on the watch for reindeer, spears notched with hunting spells ready on their shoulders. Bent and breathless under backpacks on the alpine climb, we feel their load, the pull of gravity, the pinch of cold. We watch breath curl away in wool-gathering mist that curtains hollows, hovers, rests on rock shelters. Crumbling, these yet point the way ahead, perhaps for another 1,000 years. Now though, here though, only wind survives. Wind and the finds we make, puzzling, surprising us. Reaching at last the standing stone and cairns that mark the top, we're weighted down by questions lifting from the ice's fresh retreat.
All the numbered years. I see the number on the cover and realise that diaries will be made until the dates run out and the shop shuts. Before then, on a day already waiting to be printed, I will have stopped choosing in December an oracle for next year. We don't know what will happen, but the diary does. There's plenty of time, and it's all arranged. A column a day, a week on a desk, a year in a pocket. In the unwritten page, we will go with our children to a small town where there is a particular mountain. Then we won't, though they might, and others will, again. The question is what to do with this stone in the road, locked door, fall off the world that Columbus feared. Though he found a bay, moored up, rowed in with his friends, waded ashore, and then without knowing or wanting to, killed everyone.
Hello, my name is John Goff and I'll be reading my poem Gasworks. This was inspired by a painting which is in the Herbert Art Gallery in Coventry, and the painting is by a local artist called Jane Sutton. The painting was produced in 1958, and sadly Jane, who was only around the age of 21, died 2 years after the painting was produced. She died of complications following influenza, which has a contemporary resonance. So this is my poem, Gasworks. You're only 19 then, but still found a viewpoint like that, from the gasworks on the Fosal Road. And, taking your brush and stretched canvas, you translated the spires of St Michael's, Christchurch and Trinity into scratches, spectral grey echoes. Crashed factory roofs against department store monoliths and left the lava of discarded remains to clog in alleys of dying prosperity. You're only 19. Finally, I found the same viewpoint near as damn it, behind the cast-off Courthold's annex, where Birch and Budlear now arc and shiver in the ruins. Blocks of flats, student residencies now crowd the spires. Chimneys no longer smoke with clouds, and factories have been levelled. When you saw the city's future begin to clot and fester, could you taste your own, prickling as tin on your tongue, the distant knell of the fever that took you only 2 years later?
Carved light for Brian Angus. Art school of the brain, Cherryburn Wren, this valley thick with corn and morning's ink of light. Return to me a childhood type high to the ply of a silver shilling. Not simply the eye alive to now, but a mind awake to time and the composite days of this sickle strand, its clarity of air, patterns of slate and sharply angled light askance upon the boxwood. These marks we make, centre to edge, block on the sandbag, aligned to the pole.
And next we're going to hear from Maeve Henry, Julian Bishop, Liz Young, Steve Harrison and Barbara Cumbers.
Gallery Assistant, Museum of Islamic Art, by Maeve Henry. Sit on the chair provided. Contemplate the profile of an enamelled sultan weighing his baby son against a basket of gold. Check your watch. See if the bench is less uncomfortable. Try standing. In the fixed geometry of universe, mosque and human heart, wish for a vest and a warmer pair of shoes. Put aside the blind. Look out at the bus-lit frost and the December darkness. Inhale the polished dust of sundials and astrolabes. Rub finger marks off glass. Repress the need for a pee. Note the spelling mistake in label F/98. Walk the length of the room to outstare the solitary visitor pausing in the doorway. Lean on the cooling radiator. Think of time as dust motes under an electric light. Think of nothing. Slowly.
Polcevera. This poem's about the Polcevera viaduct near Genoa in Italy that collapsed in 2018, killing 43 people. Your silent storm had been building for years, a 5-decade span of deliberate laxness taking its toll. We noticed it in the whiplash of broken cables beating against bared ribs, a corritore of botched repairs to conceal hints of age, shoddy clothes riddled with holes, and authorities who chose to chiude an occhio. I crossed you once. The distress was palpable. The length of your body trembled, knuckles white as you struggled to keep a grip, smile overstretched, sagging like worn-out elastic. How could you hold yourself together in public, while beneath, weakened by a scandalous state of neglect, your stricken heart was about to break?
Hi, I'm Liz Young, delighted to be included in the first issue of, got to get it the right way around, Alchemy Spoon. Thank you. My poem, Greenwich Time Lady, Ruth Belville, 1853 to 1943, was inspired by a fantastic visit to Greenwich in London, where I learnt about Ruth and how she took Greenwich Mean Time and sold it to various people across the city of London. And this is my tribute to her and part of her story. Even after telegraphic time and the radio's paused beep, she'd spring up the hill to Shepherd Gate, set her chronometer to the slave clock wired to the master at the observatory. Then on foot her rounds began, down to the dockhead and the mariners, selling the hour and its minutes to the Clerkenwell men, to the railway masters for their timetables, and the denizens of Belgravia, who held fast to perfect time, like maids or India. There were inaccurate claims about her and the Astronomer Royal. Mesmerised by his orrery and other moving instruments, she was, according to her rivals, unjustly favoured. Yet in the mirror she saw herself as time does, in fair progression. An octogenarian with a watch in her handbag, as if there were leeway, as if she could bargain for more.
Timed in miles. I live midway between two cast iron milestones along Telford's bit of the old Holyhead Road. Pillars to a pass that goats by like a moonlit stagecoach. Set here, bypassed by the M54 as the wooden formers and sand hollows have blown away. Moulded letters of Salop and Shifnal flank London on both sides 140 or 141 miles, choosing the way I turn. Angled services boast distances to hatted passengers and boot wearers, invisibly blurred to combustion engines, if not their I Spy passengers. It's a 20-minute amble between them. I wait too long between two milestones, rooms fluffed, wondering if you're late or if I'm in the wrong place and time.
How to explain time. Time depends on your frame of reference. This is physics. My grandfather pruned his apple trees in frost. You mustn't mind the cold, he said. Time is a variable in differential equations. This is mathematics. He crafted the branches in a mystery of design, an open network of abundance. Time is draped over branches. This is art. 3 places round each tree for ladder and grandad to fit like fingers in a glove. Time is an increase in entropy. This also is physics. Come harvest, an age-marked hand would lift each apple, give the gentle twist that freed the stalk. Time hides under a hawthorn bush. This is mythology. There were red-veined cocks and Blenheim orange and the golden roughness of the russets. Time is fast or slow according to boredom. This is experience. Grandad and Granny would sit, not talking, companionably checking fruit for peck marks or frass. Time is set by the sun and the earth's turning. This is tradition. Rejects were chopped for chutney, good ones stored in racks stacked neatly in the dark of the shed. Time slows with gravity. This is the weight of the past. I know little of the sorceries of apples, but remember wrinkled fruit, sweet to the very end of winter.
And finally, to draw the evening to a close, we're going to hear poems from Finola Scott, Nick Stringer, Kerry Derbyshire, Sarah Backer and Lewis Faber. And we're going to finish off with a reading of Ship Burial by Randall Couch, which was the poem we selected for our reading feature in this first issue of The Alchemy Spoon. So, hand over to the rest of our poets, and thank you for joining us. We hope you'll enjoy issue 2.
Unburied. Archaeological Museum, Las Palmas de Gran Canaria. Grass-bound, leathered in shackled skin, shocked they were roused from deep time slumber. Snatched from comfort of dark, glass-cased, they half-live, no longer rush-wrapped or hard-held by the memory of tombs. Cracked like ripe clams, husks unpeeled, their stomach contents examined, sinews, fertile wombs exposed. Curated curios now, no longer sisters, daughters, bairns. Thank you.
Restitutio, the restoration. Each small movement is a point of departure, the brain's judgment of time being highly distributed, like an empty space filled by individual flashes of light. It is now or not now, and that is all. One flick of the brush is 1 second, 2, 4, 16. Sometimes decades pass in front of my face. And suppose that face has been damaged, scratched, maybe it's cracked or flaking where I've rubbed it, something of the sort. Raw, beneath the glow that gives my kiss a pop. Suppose I've decided the damage is sufficiently ugly that I would like to repair it, but don't know how to start. Then time finds its meaning in the gaps between those flashes of light, the now and not now, or eternal now, in the dreaming mind of God.
"20 oranges. I could trust the river in summer when it stopped battling rain and slowed to listen to every word that poured from my mouth. It swallowed my tears, my laughter, without judgment, held on to nothing, hugged my skin, and went about its journey under the bridge of eels, around boulders, through marigolds, nodding to half-heard secrets, in the shallows where leeches hid. I watched perch and minnows dart my first crush, haul pieces of my heart into slime and gravelly shadows. I lived on sunsets, coolness, silence of mist, settling in until one May I left for noise, traffic, smell of street food, toasties, tiny birds roasting on spits. I left for the sound of bells pealing streets of Milan. Come June, heat descended in arid waves. Thirsty for the river, times of moss, green, bubbles, I squeezed 20 oranges and drank.
Hi, I'm Sarah Backer, and I'm going to read my poem, Kayak in the Margin. What we do around here is motor to the island, our boats roaring ovals through the center of the lake. I used to speed around pursuing fish. Now the clock speeds around me, and rainbows leap over my paddle with impunity.
Lost pen. I wrote a poem for my father about how one afternoon the oddly green 57 Caddy appeared in the driveway, and he polished its chrome for hours, even waxed the black bumper bullets, It was the love of his life, he said, except for his wife, he added after a moment. The years would prove that addition was most likely false. I could send him the poem. He might actually read it. He would remember the caddy, much as he now remembers my mother, with a fondness that fills the voids in his fading memory. He is not much for poetry, never was, wasn't all that much for reading, and poetry had to rhyme, at least the good ones did. But while he agrees with Hecht, he would no more recognize that name than that of Amichai, even rewritten in the grating hand of Ted Hughes. My father does not understand poetry, does not understand all that much these days, and what little he does bears constant repetition, and yet he remembers well the odd bits and pieces and forms them into his own fictions that become momentary realities. He is Brodsky rewriting Mandelstam, a new Tristia, sharing only a name with its precursor, but one its author claims is truest to its origin. My poem will be tucked away inside a yellowing journal. His caddy is rust and scrap, but in his dreams he carefully polishes its chrome and waxes the bumper bullets.
Ship burial. Emerging from dark soil, gold interlacing seethes over crusted iron, swordworms. Above the riverbank, a 90-foot ship sunk in Suffolk earth persists in outline, an old idea ruling beyond rot like mathematics or law. The ghost ship gaped the year I was born. Just months, I tell my students, before Blitzkrieg. The legal question: were the weapons buried with the intent to retrieve? The law of treasure trove protects the resurrected. If the barrow builders planned to return, the crown holds its contents in perpetual trust. If not, the finder keeps. In Kansas, the night windows darken like mantled lamps. My father, a lean man in love, fond of Kid Ory and Armstrong's hot fives, drives the section lanes to speak a word here and there. Don't forget to pull the blackout shades. His Sunday child leans from the car in her new coat and starched cap with the red cross for her mother's eager shutter. The mound at Sutton Hoo unfolds on the land of a woman named Mrs. Pretty. Describing the inquest, reporters cite Beowulf for precedent, an exercise in practical criticism. Then the Gat people began to build a mound on the headland, high and broad, that seafaring men could sight from afar. The road and shipping, the dockworks at Hull, grow clear to German pilots. Incendiaries sigh from bay racks toward the few lights that can't be blacked, spiral down at the night cranes and quaysides, blowing bright like the thrown breath of the fire drake. A glare shone that horrified men, for the hateful flyer would leave no thing alive there. The Southern Anglo-Saxon historian testifies, like the Danes and Gats, buried in ships, built commemorative mounds. They laid out their beloved lord in the heart of his ship, hard by the mast, the great ring giver. Gleaming treasure from far lands was brought for freight. Mark the standard, notes the coroner, found in the Sutton Hoo hoard. Then they set a golden standard high overhead and let the water bear him, a gift for the sea. They grieved his going and mourned their loss. No man knows, no wise man in hall or warrior under heaven can truly say who received that load. Does that sound, ladies and gentlemen, like a safe deposit box? How small the heat and light, I tell these undergraduates. How precarious the life of the mead hall. Only a hero king stands between you and marauding darkness. Even with the dragon dead, a woman knows what the king's death means. Her nation invaded, the fury of strangers, slaughtered kinsmen, slavery, and shame. Beowulf wins the case for Mrs. Pretty, who bestows the hoard on the British Museum. So standard and sword pommels and the masked helmet no sooner see light than they're buried again for safety down the tube. They let the earth hold the wealth of earls, gold in the ground where it lingers, as useless to men as it ever was. In a station of the underground, huddled Londoners beside a sea king's grave goods, barrowing the city between searchlight and all clear, wait out the droning bombers that shake the dark. No hero kings left. Sitting on my bed, I sift my life for things to leave the friends who want my voice on tape. That first day of teaching, I felt like a bird discovering what wings are for. What now? But to recite from Bede, where Edwin's counselor compares the life of man to the flight of a sparrow through a mead hall on a winter's night.